What is going on, everybody? Welcome to That Franchise Guy. Welcome to the Week 1 update show of my real 2018 roster, the number 1 community roster for Xbox One. So we got a lot of movement this week, so we're going to get right into it here with the biggest riser of the week. It is none other than Carson Wentz. Wentz going from 81 all the way up to 87 overall, making him tied with Matt Ryan for the 8th best quarterback in football. This whole offseason, I shouted from the rooftops that Wentz would emerge this season as an MVP candidate, a consensus top 5 NFL quarterback. And after what I saw from Wentz in his sophomore debut in Washington, I am more than comfortable planting my flag on Wentz as a truly elite quarterback, similar to when I went against the crowd and dropped Cam Newton from a 93 to an 85 immediately after his MVP season. I have seen enough quarterbacks and enough Carson Wentz to know when I am seeing something truly special, plus traits in every quarterback category. You see the arm strength, the intangibles, the preparation, the accuracy is getting there, the quick release, the throw on the move, and the ability to manipulate the pocket. I have been asking for years now if we will ever see a quarterback as talented as Aaron Rodgers, and Wentz is the closest thing to an answer to that question as I think we've ever seen. So if you aren't a Wentz believer, you won't love the roster now, but in 2 months, I think you may wish you saw this coming. The next big riser this week is Kareem Hunt. No surprise there, going from 77 to 81. Kareem Hunt was already higher in my roster. If you remember my rookie roster from Madden 17, he was actually the 3rd highest rated rookie in that group. I love Kareem Hunt coming into the NFL. He has every tool you want out of a running back, super smart player, can catch the ball, run between the tackles, but he showed us even more. He showed some really good athleticism that I don't think many people knew he had, myself included. So he goes from 77 to an 81. I think he continues to rise this year, could find himself in the mid 80s, maybe even high 80s by the end of the season. He looked great. Stephon Tuitt, another big riser this week, going from 81 to an 84. I probably had him a little low. He gets the big contract in the last week and then absolutely kills it in his debut. He does get hurt, however, so he's going to have to get healthy, but Stephon Tuitt looks great, definitely living up to that big contract. And then Stephon Diggs going from 83 to an 86, had some questions around his health, and do be careful, his injury rating is still low 70s, as it should be. This guy gets hurt a lot, but when he is out there, as we saw Monday night, a healthy Stephon Diggs, he is a star receiver. He will go up, make the tough catches, great route runner, great release, all of it. Mini Antonio Brown, I believe they like to call him. So let's look at the biggest fallers now from this week. They're both quarterbacks, starting with Carson Palmer. And boy, oh boy, did Palmer let me down. I picked the Cardinals to be a wild card team this year, and now without David Johnson, there is no chance in hell that that is happening. Carson Palmer looked terrible. There was no sign of any rejuvenated arm strength as we kept hearing the rhetoric out of the training camp. Palmer had nothing left. He was missing almost every other throw, had some bad interceptions. He doesn't really have any weapons or an offensive line either. It's going to be a long season for Carson Palmer and Cardinals fans. And even worse than Carson Palmer is Eli Manning, who, frankly, I've been saying for a year now is a terrible NFL quarterback. I've questioned if he is a bottom 5 starter. He comes from 76 to a 73, which is tied for 28th, making him a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL. To me, what I see from Eli Manning on film is if you took Cam Newton's pocket awareness, Blake Bortles' accuracy, and put it in Ryan Fitzpatrick's body, Eli Manning looks terrible. The only thing keeping him north of a 70 right now is his 2 Super Bowl rings, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. But this is almost 10 overall lower than you'll find in EA's roster. I said the Giants would have a bottom 5 offense this year, and you saw why. Eli Manning is miserable, and I don't think it's getting any better. I do wonder when we are going to start to see some Geno Smith talk here, because he just might be a better quarterback than Eli Manning at this point in his career. Now, obviously, the offensive line there is not helping Eli Manning, but there were some times where he had his chances. He missed Brandon Marshall on an easy slant route, and he missed him by a wide margin. He didn't even give his 6'3" receiver a shouting chance at it. So Eli Manning, a big faller this week. And now we're going to run through all the guys going up this week that are of note. So starting in Chicago, Tariq Cohen had a big week. Now he was already a little higher on my roster, so he gets a boost to his receiving traits. He goes from 74 to a 76. Akeem Hicks gets +2, gets a big contract, totally underappreciated defensive lineman in this league. One of the best 4-eye, 5 technique players in the league. And Roy Robertson Harris also going up, an undrafted guy from last year, starting to make some plays. Nothing crazy here, obviously, but a guy to definitely keep your eye on. And then Tanner Gentry, also getting created here, an undrafted rookie out of Wyoming, a sure-handed, intriguing rookie player, a tough physical receiver, a guy that this receiving core desperately needs. I would not be surprised if we see Tanner Gentry starting to get some playing time here. Going up in Cincinnati was Jake Fisher. While the rest of this offensive line was terrible, Jake Fisher, I thought, looked all right on the right side. Jamal Charles in Denver going up +5, but that injury rating still in the 50s. He already got banged up in this game, but he at least showed us that he has some burst left, which was a serious question for me this offseason. For the Browns, Derek Kindred, a young safety, got the start for the Browns, made a ton of plays. He goes up from 72 to a 75. A nice starting caliber safety there for the Browns. And now in Arizona, Josh Bynes going from 68 to a 72, going from that replacement level tier to the starters tier. If you remember from my first video, Josh Bynes kind of rotating in there with Hassan Reddick, who looked pretty good. But Bynes, more of the first and second down linebacker there, was definitely filling his role nicely. And then for the Chargers, moving up is Melvin Ingram from 84 to an 86. Looked really nice. I probably had him just a little low to begin with. And then for the Chiefs, they had that big win against New England. So some guys to talk about here. Alex Smith goes up from 76 to a 78. Now, I will say he clearly looked like he's feeling the pressure from Pat Mahomes. He was more willing to move the ball downfield and was more accurate, honestly, than we've ever seen. But going against a New England defense that frankly has the worst pass rush in the NFL as of now, and without Donta Hightower, let's see how Alex Smith looks against a more vaunted Eagles pass rush this week. We already talked about Kareem Hunt, but also moving up, Derek Johnson coming off a serious injury. Wanted to see how he looked, but he looked pretty spry. So he goes from 84 to an 86. And then Terrence Mitchell, journeyman corner, I had some serious questions about, especially last season, but he had a good second half last year, kind of coming out of nowhere, had a good camp, and then looked pretty good. So he goes up +1. We're definitely going to continue to monitor him. And then the Cowboys, let's talk about Dak Prescott for a second. Most of you that follow me know I'm not super high on Dak Prescott. I think he's got below average arm strength and below average accuracy. And he also has the easiest job of any starting quarterback in the NFL, and I don't even think that's an argument. Now, Dak Prescott, he's impressed me at times, but in that Sunday night game, his accuracy looked pretty bad to me, so he takes a -1 this week. If it's anything like last season, he'll be +2 next week and then -1 the next. But we'll see if he figures out some more consistency, or if that Sunday night Dak Prescott is the Dak Prescott we're going to get for the rest of his career or this year, which to me, that's more of a 77 overall quarterback. But sitting at 80 for now. And then Jalen Smith, the middle linebacker, he gets a +1 because he finished a game healthy. It's a great start for him. I could definitely see him continuing to rise pretty quickly this week as he continues to get healthy. For the Eagles, Nelson Aguilar getting a +2, starting to get some of that confidence back. We know he's got the ability, but has had a ton of drops over his career, but looked pretty damn good on Sunday, goes +2. And then also for the Eagles, we got Jalen Mills, the cornerback. Nothing serious here, just gets a +1. He had a pick in this game, but just want to bring him up as a guy that we're going to watch as Ronald Darby got injured. Sidney Jones still not playing. So Jalen Mills is the #1 corner for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So a lot of pressure is going to be on him, and it's going to be really exciting to see how he does as the #1 corner for this team. Moving on to the 49ers, Reuben Foster gets +3 from 77 to an 80 overall. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. So injuries, is this going to be a theme for Reuben Foster? It's why he fell in the draft. But he also just might have been the best player on the field in that game against Carolina, flying all over the place. So get healthy, Reuben Foster. I want to keep watching you play football. So now it's time to talk about the Jaguars, who, this defense, I had questions about. They signed Calais Campbell, AJ Boye. They always do this, right? They always sign free agents and it doesn't really result in anything. Well, that was clearly not the case this week, but they were also playing a terrible Houston front, and I really want to see how they look against Tennessee this week, which is a much better offensive line, almost in a whole nother league. So Yannick Ngakoue slowly creeping up, still going back to last season. So 75 to a 76, he gets 2 strip sacks, but again, let's see how he looks against Taylor Lewan, an all-pro left tackle this week. It's going to be a telling matchup there. Calais Campbell, though, and AJ Boye, so these guys both go up. Campbell goes up +2 and Boye +3. Now, I'm more buying these two guys because I questioned the impact. I mentioned their history with free agency, but Boye was the #1 corner here, to my surprise. I didn't know what to expect there, but he did a really good job on DeAndre Hopkins. He had that edginess that you like to see out of a corner. Now, he was a little grabby at times, but all in all, a great impact corner there. And then Calais Campbell playing the Michael Bennett role in this Seattle scheme, which, yes, Gus Bradley's gone, but this is still Seattle's defense. Calais Campbell, frankly, is a bigger, faster version of Michael Bennett, which is terrifying. If he looks good against Tennessee, against Jack Conklin, a good right tackle, I think is slightly overrated, but a Pro Bowl tackle last year nonetheless, I am going to, for sure, be ready to put Calais Campbell into the 90s, into that superstar tier, looking like a godsend of a sign for this Jacksonville defense that I just might have been wrong about. I did not think this defense was going to be as good as they were on Sunday, but again, let's see how they look against Tennessee this weekend. On to the Raiders now. We got Eddie Vanderdoes going up. Now, he's already +2 in my roster compared to Vanilla, but he gets another +2 this week. A high-end high school prospect who didn't really put it together at UCLA, but playing very well in his first game for the Raiders. Definitely a guy that could keep rising this year. And then how about the kicker, Giorgio Tavecchio? A big week, goes from 66 to a 78 overall, draining 350-plus yard field goals right down the pipe. He looked great. Could be the long-term answer there with some questions around Sebastian Janikowski. And then on to the Rams. They have that big week. Really, the only guy that stood out to me, however, against Scott Tolzien and the Colts was Tremaine Johnson. I thought he had a great game, so he gets a +1. Can he start to put his name up there with those other shutdown corners? And then sticking on topic with the corners here, a +1 for all 3 of the Ravens starting corners. They played tremendous man press coverage against a very good Bengals receiving core. So Jimmy Smith, Brandon Carr, and Marlon Humphrey all getting a +1 this week. Now in Washington, we got a lot of risers this week, a lot revealed in week 1 of the NFL season. Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson, no overall changes, but if you look on my Twitter, Rob Kelly, a nasty stiff arm. So his stiff arm goes up, I believe, 13. And then Chris Thompson putting on the spin move for a big touchdown, so his spin move goes up. Also in Washington, Junior Gillette, a guy that I have continuously lowered and ripped on this channel, but he at least gets on the field, goes from 69 to a 71. Could be a fast riser if he starts to look good. We haven't seen him play football for what feels like 2 or 3 years now. Was suspended, ACL injury. So can he get back? And Washington, frankly, needs a good pass rusher like Junior Gillette. So we'll see there. For the Saints, overall, it was a pretty bad week for them, but Coby Fleener gets +2. He made some of the best catches I've ever seen him make in his career, which might be a sign that he's putting things together, so his catching is going to go up. He goes up +2 overall. And then for the Seahawks, we're going to have some more guys here in the fallers section, but Blair Walsh starting to get some of that confidence back. It's a +5. And then for the Steelers now, Antonio Brown gets +1, kind of reminding us that he is still in the conversation for the best receiver in football. I still have Julio as a 99, and Julio looked good in week 1, but Antonio Brown looked awesome. Might he see himself back as a 99 before too long? Also moving up for the Steelers, some outside linebackers, Anthony Chickillo, +1, starting to become a role player for that team. And then TJ Watt was already raised in my roster in the preseason, but 77 overall, gets a +1. Probably going to keep growing. He looked pretty damn good. For the Titans, going up is Derek Morgan, just by 1, but he looked pretty quick to me. Maybe entering his prime, starting to figure things out. We'll see. He's never really stood out to me, but I thought he looked better than I've ever seen. And then the last riser this week, Monday Night Football star Sam Bradford, really throwing some of the better throws we might see this whole season. We're seeing that if you give this guy some time, which he hasn't had at any point in his career, he's a damn good quarterback. He went number 1 and was one of the highest rated prospects coming out in a long time at that point. He's only 29, so Sam Bradford could be getting comfortable in Minnesota. That offensive line's going to have to stay healthy, but he's really coming into that top 15 range for me. We did kind of get some of that last year, though, so we'll see how long it lasts. Hopefully for Vikings fans, it's the whole season. Now it's time to talk about the guys who disappointed this week, and Eddie Lacy on the top of that list, really. -2, looking slow. I would not be surprised if Eddie Lacy got cut. Chris Carson looked pretty good. Thomas Rawls needs to get healthy, but Eddie Lacy not looking good. And then also for the Seahawks, we got more fallers. George Fant injury, of course, but Reese Odiambo got absolutely manhandled. The Seahawks are at a loss at that left tackle position without George Fant, so Odiambo goes down -2. As you would expect now, some fallers for the Texans as well. J.J. Watt, saddens me to say, but he looked like a man coming off a serious back injury. He was not an impact in this game. He looked slower, he looked weaker, so I hope I don't have to keep dropping him, but he goes down -3, and we'll see what happens tomorrow night against a bad Cincinnati front. But Jacksonville's weak up front, Cincinnati's weak up front. If he can't make an impact in either of those games, it's going to be awfully concerning for J.J. Watt's season. More Texans falling. Tom Savage, Houston, what were you thinking? Did you not see how bad he was in your training camp? I mean, come on. 69 to a 67 overall. Tom Savage, not the answer at quarterback in Houston. And then left tackle Chris Clark also going down. They need DeJuan Brown back fast, especially if they're going to put the rookie quarterback in there. And we got 2 more fallers here, and then we're all done. Again, a big update this week. Marcus Mariota going down -1, and I want to believe in Marcus Mariota, but something's missing there. I talked about how bad the play calling is here, but it still seems to me like he wants to Peyton Manning his way into being a good NFL quarterback. That is not what he should be doing. He should be doing things more like Derek Carr, Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz, using those legs to extend plays, and he doesn't do it. Now people see the read option touchdown, and they think he's a running quarterback. It's a difference. It's the same thing with Cam Newton. You need to know on passing plays when it's appropriate to use those legs, and Mariota doesn't. Way too often will he take the check down when he has opportunities to extend plays, especially on 3rd down, and it doesn't help that the play calling here is pretty miserable. I'm not buying Mike Mularkey and this coaching staff. So until I see more from Marcus Mariota, I'm not going to be on board with them, just like I wasn't this offseason with them being a playoff team, even though that division sucks, and with him being a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And then also falling for the Titans is Eric Decker. Really told people to stay away from him in fantasy. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. He was almost non-existent in this offense. Rashard Matthews was clearly the guy that was going to be more reliable on 3rd downs, which is kind of the role for Decker here. And Corey Davis looked good as well. So Eric Decker now is 77 overall, -2. That's almost 10 lower than Vanilla Madden has him. So that's going to wrap up the risers and fallers this week. Guys, let me know if I missed anyone who had big weeks or bad weeks. Looking forward to another weekend of NFL football, and we'll have this update show again next Wednesday around noon. Again, it took me a little longer to get this video done. More changes in week 1 than I think we'll see in any week for the rest of the season. So cheers, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the first update show. We'll see you next week.